May 31st, 1940. 7:12 a.m., just off the coast of Dunkirk, the sun is rising like a white-hot blade over the English Channel. The light cuts through broken smoke trails and the distant silhouettes of burning ships. A single RAF Hurricane MQ claws through the sky, engine screaming, bullet holes stitched across its fuselage like open wounds. Inside the cockpit, Flight Lieutenant Arthur Rowse, age 24, is fighting the controls with one gloved hand while keeping his other pressed against a shattered canopy panel that refuses to stop rattling. Wind slashes his face as though the sky itself wants him dead. His oxygen mask vibrates with each breath. Ragged, fast, frightened. Behind him 3 dots are growing, not clouds, hunters, Messerschmitt Bf 10-9s. Rowse glances back. The German fighters close in, whining like wolves crossing the ice. They form a spread, tight, confident, textbook Luftwaffe discipline. They know he's alone, they know he's wounded, they know the Hurricane is slower, heavier, bleeding airspeed. You can almost feel their certainty. Rowse tries to dive. A stream of 7.92mm rounds shreds the wingtip fabric. Another burst rattles the radiator. He's seconds from losing everything: engine, lift, control. A retreat is impossible. Climbing is suicide. Fighting 3 ace-trained Germans head-on? Madness. He checks his ammunition count. 9 rounds left. 9. For a moment the cockpit goes quiet. Not in sound, but in thought. The kind of silence that happens when the brain can't accept what's coming. Rowse is going to die here. Alone. Over a sea filled with thousands of desperate Allied soldiers below, waiting for rescue. No one will even see his wreckage sink. Then, something strange happens. A sliver of sunlight hits the torn edge of his shattered canopy. The broken glass flashes like a signal mirror, scattering a violent glare across his instruments. Rowse jerks his head instinctively, eyes blinded for half a second. And the idea hits him. Not a strategy, not a plan. A gut impulse only a pilot on the edge of panic would dare follow. He tears off a thin metal backing from the inside of the cockpit, just a scrap of polished aluminum near the frame. He wedges it behind the broken glass, angling it with the same desperation of a drowning man grabbing anything within reach. A reflective surface, improvised, stupid. But the sun is strong, too strong to ignore. He pulls back slightly, letting the Hurricane rise into the glare. The Germans follow, as expected, right into the blinding beam. 3 hunters, 1 wounded Hurricane, and sunlight ready to burn their eyes like a weapon. Rowse tightens his grip. He's not retreating. He's going to fight them with the sun. Rowse doesn't fire. Not yet. He keeps his throttle steady, letting the engine moan upward through thin air. The Hurricane isn't climbing with power, it's climbing with hope, pushed by nothing but momentum and the desperate gamble of a half-mad idea. The sun is now directly behind him, an execution spotlight aimed squarely into the faces of the incoming Messerschmitts. The first Bf 109 slides closer, its yellow nose gleaming like a spearhead. The German pilot is confident. Rowse can almost imagine the smirk behind the goggles. All he has to do is hold steady and take the shot. Rowse is presenting himself like prey. And then it happens. The fractured canopy catches the sunlight again, only now it throws a blinding shard of white straight back at the Germans. The reflection hits with the intensity of a magnesium flare. That thin edge of shattered glass explodes with light. The lead German jerks his head away, instinct overpowering training. His machine guns fire wildly into empty sky, tracers carving harmless streaks above Rose's tail. Rowse doesn't hesitate. He rolls hard left. The Hurricane shudders, wounded wings protesting, yet it obeys. His thumb taps the trigger. 3 shots. 1 moment of panic. A burst across the Bf 109's wing route. The German fighter spasms, banks too hard, and the sudden stress tears it into a spin. Rowse watches the Messerschmitt tumble downward, swallowed by the glare and the smoke haze below. One down, two still closing. Most pilots would run. Most pilots would dive. But Rowse pushes the nose up again, straight into the blinding sun, forcing the Germans to chase him through the light. This time they spread apart, trying to flank him. They're wary now. They've seen something they can't explain, something they can't read in any tactics manual or briefing. Rowse steadies his breathing. His oxygen mask is shaking from the airflow tearing into the broken canopy, but his hands are steady, steadier than they should be. When death feels certain, fear becomes a kind of freedom. He tilts the Hurricane's angle, just a fractional adjustment, enough to catch the sun differently. The broken glass erupts again, another vicious flash, but this time split into multiple jagged beams. The polished scrap behind it amplifies the burst like a signal mirror, but chaotic, unpredictable. Not a beam, a spray of light, a weapon of distortion. One of the Germans breaks formation, veering off violently, momentarily blind, but the other doesn't. The third Bf-109 dives straight toward him, guns ready, committing to a kill despite the glare. A predator refusing to be tricked. He's not losing focus. He's not afraid. He's coming in for the kill and he'll get it, unless Rowse does something even more reckless. Rowse pulls the throttle back, sharply, something no sane Hurricane pilot would ever do when a German fighter is diving at his back. Sudden deceleration, a shrinking target, a confused hunter with seconds to react. But what happens next will decide whether Rowse survives or becomes just another pilot swallowed by the channel below. The Bf-109 dives toward him like a falling blade. Rowse's sudden throttle cut forces his Hurricane into a brutal deceleration. The airframe shudders violently, the engine coughing like it's about to stall. Every instinct in a pilot's body screams, "Don't do this!" Losing speed in a dogfight is like dropping your shield in a sword battle, but that's exactly why it works. The 109 overshoots. It hurtles past Rowse's canopy so close he can see the rivets on its fuselage. The German pilot's head snaps sideways, searching for the target he expected to be burning behind him, now somehow floating below and to the rear. He's disoriented. And that's when the sun strikes again. As the 109 pulls up to reposition, its pilot inadvertently lines his cockpit with Rowse, with the sun firing straight through the improvised reflector. The jagged shards of glass and polished metal throw a violent, fractured blast into the German's goggles. He jerks the stick. Too hard. The aircraft wrenches into a climb it wasn't prepared for. The stressed engine sputters, overstalls, and the Bf-109 flips itself sideways. A rookie mistake, made by a trained killer who's suddenly blinded in the most primitive, humiliating way possible. By sunlight. Rowse doesn't wait. His thumb taps the trigger. 4 rounds left. His bullets hit the trailing edge of the 109's wing. Not enough to tear it apart, but enough to knock the already dazed pilot off balance. The Messerschmitt rolls, loses lift, and spirals into the cloud layer below, trailing smoke like a ruptured artery across the sky. 2 down. 1 left. But this one isn't coming in with arrogance anymore. The remaining Bf-109 circles at a distance, working angles, using altitude, refusing to make the same mistake. He keeps the sun at his back, smartly avoiding Rowse's hellish little trick. This one knows what he's doing. Rowse's hands are numb now, knuckles locked around the control column. His eyes burn from the wind, his ears ring from the engine strain. He's not sure how much more the Hurricane can take, or how much longer the sun trick will even work. He checks his ammo again. 5 rounds. 5 rounds against a cautious, skilled Luftwaffe pilot who won't be fooled easily. No more surprises. No more lucky angles. This one is going to take a real fight. The German begins a slow dive, ready to make a long-range pass. Not a close brawl, not another overshoot. A surgeon's cut from afar. Rowse watches him, waiting, breathing, letting the hurricane settle into a controlled glide. The sun is no longer an advantage. Unless he does something insane. He angles the aircraft downward slightly, not toward the enemy, but toward the sea. Not an escape, but a reflection. The channel below glitters like a sheet of polished steel. A second mirror, a bigger one. If he times it perfectly, he might blind the last hunter with the ocean. He pushes the stick down harder. The hurricane drops. Fast. Too fast. The German commits, diving after him, and the surface of the water rises like a waiting trap. This time the sun isn't behind him. It's below him, waiting to burn. The water rushes up, black and dazzling at once, mirroring the morning sun like a molten shield. The channel is calm today, unnervingly calm, its glossy surface broken only by distant plumes of smoke from sinking ships and shattered piers. Under any other circumstance, it might look beautiful. Right now, it looks like a weapon. Rowse levels out just meters above the sea. The hurricane howls in protest, its propeller tips shaving mist from the surface. Any lower, and he'll carve his own grave into the channel. The Bf 109 dives after him, close enough now to feel the pressure wave from its engine passing through his frame. The German is confident again. Down here, there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, no altitude left to trade, no speed to gain. If Rowse tries another glare trick, there's no sun behind him anymore. But that's the trap. The sun doesn't need to be behind him, not if the sea can throw it back upward. Rowse pulls slightly to the right, putting the hurricane into the perfect angle for reflection. The German mirrors the move automatically, tightening the pursuit. They skim low, too low. Any mistake, any misjudgment, and both aircraft become streaks of wreckage sinking into cold, salt water. Then it happens. The rising sun hits the water at just the right moment, bouncing straight upward into the attacker's approach path. For a split second, the channel becomes a mirror of fire, a blinding white sheet erupting directly into the Bf 109's field of view. The German reacts instinctively, jerking his head and yanking the stick to avoid crashing into the ocean. But Rowse is ready for that exact reflex. He pulls up hard. The hurricane leaps upward, scraping air off the sea. The sudden maneuver steals what little breath he had left, slamming him back against the seat. Through the G-force haze, he sees the German fighter climbing after him, climbing blind, climbing because he has no choice. Perfect. Rowse tilts slightly left, letting the shattered canopy catch the light again. The inner scrap of metal throws one more violent glare back at the German, not from the sun above, nor the water below, but from both at once, a double flash, impossible to predict. The German flinches, his control slips for just half a heartbeat, and half a heartbeat is all Rowse needs. His thumb squeezes the trigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last of his ammunition spits out in a single desperate burst. A short, ragged line of tracers cuts through the morning sky, stitching into the underside of the Bf 109's nose and engine block. Smoke erupts immediately, thick and oily, choking out through the intakes. The German fighter doesn't explode, it just dies. A sudden silence, a quiet surrender as it peels off and descends in a slow, spiraling fall, like a bird realizing its wings are gone. Rowse watches it go. He doesn't cheer, doesn't breathe relief. He simply stares through the burning wind, hand still frozen on the trigger. 3 enemies, 9 bullets, 1 piece of broken glass. The hurricane is shaking. The engine temperature is spiking. Rowse knows there's still one more challenge left. He has to make it home, with no ammo, with a shredded canopy, with a failing engine, and with hundreds of German aircraft swarming over Dunkirk. He banks toward England, toward survival, but he has no idea if this wounded machine will take him even one more mile. Rowse coaxes the throttle, careful as if he's holding a dying man by the collar. The Hurricane coughs, sputters, then stabilizes at a thin, miserable hum. Oil pressure in the red. Temperature screaming toward the limit. One more minute of hard flying and the engine will seize. He levels out, guiding the aircraft away from the chaos of Dunkirk. Below him, ships crammed with exhausted soldiers, tiny figures waving up at the retreating sky. Some see the crippled Hurricane limp past. To them, it's just one more casualty barely clinging to life. To Rowse, it's their sky holding him up. He pushes forward, leaving French sand behind and heading toward open sea, toward home. England, safety, repair crews, a hot mug of tea that doesn't exist yet, but feels real enough to drive him on. Then, movement. 3 silhouettes emerging out of the cloud line ahead. Not German fighters. He recognizes the shapes instantly. Spitfires. RAF patrol. His heart nearly breaks from relief. They bank toward him cautiously, guns ready. They don't know who's who. At this distance, a Hurricane could be a captured decoy. Rowse's canopy is shattered, his markings are scorched. He's a ghost limping out of fire. He wiggles his wings gently, standard RAF identification gesture. The Spitfires pause, then return the gesture. Safe. Rowse exhales so hard it rips a shiver through his body. The cold wind pounding inside the broken cockpit stings like needles. His hands shake for the first time since the fight. Now, after it's over, fear finally arrives. That's when the engine coughs again. Oil pressure drops. The Hurricane starts to lose altitude. Not yet. Not now. Rowse coaxes the throttle like a prayer, easing back, feeling the last remnants of power. The Spitfires see his struggle. One moves ahead to escort, another drops behind. They form a protective corridor, guiding him toward the British coast like bodyguards ushering a wounded king. But the sea is long. The engine weakens. The horizon feels too far. Rowse smells burning oil seeping into the cockpit. The temperature gauge trembles in the danger zone. His altimeter ticks downward. A forced water landing, here, now, would kill him. He knows it. A cracked canopy means flooding. A failing engine means no glide authority. If he lands wrong, the channel will claim him. He can see the coast now, just barely. A thin strip of safety. But the Hurricane is falling faster than the coastline is rising. He clenches the stick. His arm aches. His lungs sting. The patrol leader breaks radio silence only long enough to say one thing over the open channel. Stay with us, Hurricane. Just a little farther. Rowse isn't sure if his engine or his own body will last that long. The coastline is close. Too close to die. Too far to reach. The British shoreline looms ahead. Chalk cliffs and green fields glowing faintly through the morning haze. It looks impossibly calm compared to the storm of Dunkirk. A postcard. A dream. Rowse tries to steady the Hurricane for landing, but the aircraft isn't responding like a machine anymore. It's responding like a corpse. The stick feels mushy. The throttle is barely breathing back. The engine is spasming in uneven bursts, each one weaker than the last. He's descending whether he likes it or not. The Spitfires flank him tighter now, banking low. One dips under him in a protective sled position, ready to call in emergency crews the moment they pass the coastline. Rowse tilts his aircraft toward the nearest airfield, RAF Hawking, a small fighter base just inland. It's close enough to smell the grass, but not close enough for the engine to survive. The Hurricane drops lower. Lower. Too low. At less than 200 feet, the engine gives a final cough, then goes dead. Silence. No roar. No vibration. Just the violent wind punching through the shattered canopy as the Hurricane becomes nothing but a glider with holes in its wings. Rose's heartbeat becomes the only engine still running. He adjusts his glide angle. His left wing shudders, threatening to stall. The aircraft is unstable, fighting gravity like a drunk being dragged home. He eases back, softer than a breath. He sees the field ahead, a runway, emergency crews rushing out, smoke trailing from his nose. Almost there, just meters now. The aircraft is barely holding shape. Then the ground leaps up. The Hurricane hits the earth hard, bouncing once, then screaming across grass as its landing gear buckles. The left wheel collapses. The right wing dips, digging into soil. The aircraft skids sideways, spinning to a halt in a spray of mud and torn turf. Stillness. For a moment, nobody moves. The world is quiet except for Rowse's ragged breathing inside a cockpit full of glass, cold air, and the smell of burnt oil. Emergency crews sprint toward him. One mechanic yanks the canopy, cutting his gloves on shattered glass. Another pulls Rowse free, half-conscious, fingers still clenched around the stick as if letting go would kill him. He's barely standing when someone blurts, "How many were after you?" Rowse tries to speak. His throat is raw. His voice breaks into a rasp. 3. A silence falls around the ground crew. Someone whistles under their breath. "And how much ammo did you have left?" He looks up, dazed. His eyelids are heavy. His voice fades to a whisper. 9 rounds. The crew exchange stunned looks, something between disbelief and awe. One mechanic mutters under his breath, almost laughing in shock. "Blinded them with the bloody sun." Another answers, "Who the hell fights the Luftwaffe with sunlight?" They help Rowse toward the medical truck, his steps uneven, his eyes red from wind and glare. He's exhausted, frozen, half delirious. But behind him, ground crews gather around the Hurricane, staring at the broken canopy, at the sliver of metal wedged behind the glass, angled like a bizarre makeshift mirror. A simple scrap that turned the sun into a weapon. A miracle of desperation. Flight Lieutenant Arthur Rowse doesn't even look back. He doesn't know that word will spread, that officers will write reports about an